Hello, everyone. Welcome to this teleconference of questions and answers. Here's our first question for today. After having read H. Spencer Lewis's Cosmic Politics, this was an article by H. Spencer Lewis, it was interesting to learn that as mystics, H. Spencer Lewis said, we should most definitely be active in earthly politics as a means to facilitate the grand goal of humanity's enlightenment and expansion of consciousness. Of course, the order does not support any particular party or candidate, nor do we discuss politics inside our temples. But as practical mystics, should we visualize wisdom, success, and light for all candidates equally? The question continues, I understand we are unable to use mystical techniques to wish ill or anything negative because it wouldn't work to begin with, plus there are karmic repercussions. But are we allowed to use mystical techniques such as mental creation and visualization to create a vision of our preferred candidate, successful and winning their office? Would this go against cosmic law? How should mystics act in this instance? You may be familiar with the Child Culture series, which provides techniques for parents to envision the soul personality of the child that they want to attract into their family. In the same way, we can envision and attract into our lives, into our communities, the individual who we feel would best serve the needs of our community. So we are encouraged to visualize the leader who we want, whether it's in our community, in our state, in our country. Now, before we begin visualizing, it's important to be aware of our biases. We don't even realize that we have many of the biases that we have. So before we begin visualizing who we think would be the ideal leader, it's important to consider if we have biases just because someone is more familiar to us. And there's been so much research done on this subject. It's not prejudice, it's a bias that, for example, in a business, there's been so much research on the value of not just promoting the person you're most familiar with, who you work on the same floor with them instead of the person who works on the floor upstairs, that you are aware when you have a bias. So, for example, let's say if you're envisioning who the ideal leader of your community would be or of your country, and we're not using any examples of specific candidates where I'm not referring at all to any recent elections. I'm describing in general how important it is to be aware of our biases before we start manifesting things. So, for example, if your mayor or your governor has always been a white male, then maybe only white males come to your mind. This is a very normal part of human psychology. So when we're envisioning who we want our leaders to be, it's valuable to see when we may have biases that we're blind to. Now, separate from that, there is prejudice. And this, let's go back to the example of a hiring bias. This could occur because of personal preferences or stereotypes that influence hiring decisions that potentially lead to unfair outcomes and a lack of diversity. So this could just be, you have a stereotype about someone from a particular tradition or a particular country, and so you disqualify them before you realize that that has even happened. In the past, I have presented several programs on the sacred feminine and on looking at the way the divine feminine has been treated throughout history. And as part of that, I've shared some of the statistics related to women in leadership roles. And I'll share the most recent ones. The United States Senate began in the year 1789. And since then, 2,004 people have served as United States senators. So 2,000 people have served as United States senators. And think for a moment of how many of those you think are women out of 2,004. Since the year 1789, 60 women have served as United States senators, and 25 of them are serving at this time. So 1,944 men served and 60 women. That's the percentage of women is 2.9%, but the US population is 49.76% female. And of course, this can be explored with other demographics. For example, in our long history, 12 African American people have served as United States senators. And that's a much smaller percentage. It's 0.006%, when African American people are 13.6% of our population. There have been 11 Hispanic people who serve in the United States Senate, 8 Asian, Pacific Islanders, and Native Hawaiian senators, and 4 American Indian senators. So I mention these statistics just so that we can be aware of biases that we may not have any idea that we participate in. The Rosicrucian teachings emphasize the importance of balanced energy, what we call positive and negative and masculine and feminine. And research shows that female leaders are more likely to cross party lines to find common ground. And female lawmakers are also more likely to advocate for policies that support education and health, and to pass and implement legislation that advances gender equality, including laws on domestic violence, rape, and sexual harassment. Now, here's a statistic that's very interesting to me. Women's inclusion at leadership tables promotes stability. One study found that when women's parliamentary representation increases by 5%, and this is worldwide, the women's representation increases by 5%, a country is almost 5 times less likely to respond to an international crisis with violence. Within countries, women's parliamentary representation is associated with a decreased risk of civil war and lower levels of state-perpetrated human rights abuses, such as disappearances, killings, political imprisonment, and torture. So again, the point of mentioning this is that in a moment, we're going to be envisioning the leaders that we think will be best for our community and our world. So we want to stop and think if we have some biases that we're not even aware of. The Rosicrucian Order published a document in 2005 called Rosicrucian Utopia. And here are a few excerpts from that. Politicians are profoundly humanistic and strive to serve the common good. Economists manage state finances with discernment and in the interest of all. Misery and poverty have vanished, for everyone has what one needs to live happily. Work is not regarded as a chore, it is looked at as a source of growth and well-being. And this document was part of the Rosicrucian Manifesto, the Positio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis. And that document ends with this statement. Before sealing this positio, and thereby giving it the stamp of our order, we wish to conclude with an invocation that expresses what we may call Rosicrucian utopia in the Platonist sense of the word. We are appealing to the goodwill of everyone so that one day this utopia may become a reality for the greater good of humanity. Perhaps this day will never come. However, if all men and women endeavor to believe in it and act accordingly, the world can only become better because of it. So now we'll prepare ourselves to envision the ideal leadership. Maybe it's a council of leaders, like in the United Nations, or, there are a number of interfaith councils. Maybe it's a very dynamic person. In the Rosicrucian Manifesto, published in 2014, that is called the Appellatio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis, which means the appeal, the call to people. It includes 3 areas. And I ask that we consider these 3 areas when thinking about the ideal leader for our community. So in that Rosicrucian Manifesto, the appeal, the call is for more humanism, for more spirituality, and for taking more care of the environment. Those are presented in the Rosicrucian Manifesto as the 3 most important areas to call upon everyone, and not just our leaders, but to call upon all mystics, all Rosicrucians, to make these 3 areas a priority. Again, humanism, taking care of our fellow human beings, spirituality, and taking care of the environment. So I invite you now to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Breathe in a little bit more, and then slowly exhale through your mouth, a long, slow exhalation. Now, envision the humanist, spiritual person or council that's committed to taking care of the environment that you envision as the ideal leader. What do they look like? How can you connect with this person or this council? How can you support their work of humanism and spirituality and taking care of the environment? Establish this connection with this leader or this leadership council. And see the effect that it has on the world. See some effect that it has in your community or your state or your country or the world. So mote it be. So to respond even more to this question, not only can we visualize the leader that supports what's important to us, we have a call to action. We have an appeal to support people who are promoting humanism, spirituality, and taking care of the environment. We're called on in that Rosicrucian manifesto, the Appelatio Fraternitatis Rosicrucis, we are called upon to be engaged, to be involved. So I will thank you in advance for that service that you will perform. And I know many of you are already very involved. Here's our next question. How should we understand and take the fact that everything is an illusion? The idea that everything is an illusion is a concept rooted in many spiritual and philosophical traditions. It doesn't necessarily mean that nothing really exists, but it invites us to question the nature of reality as we perceive it. And an example that's presented in the monographs is in the Fourth Temple Degree, where we explore that birth and death are human concepts. They are not mystical actualities. Birth and death correspond more accurately to stages in a cycle, the cycle of cosmic life. So death is part of the eternal process of life. Birth is part of the eternal process of life. When a living being dies, the vital life force leaves the body for good, and the cosmic essence that permeated all its cells disperses into the ether. The physical medium loses its cohesion and gradually fragments through the action of the repulsive forces of spirit. Having freed themselves from the psychic body at the same time, the human soul and the soul personality separate and recover the independence that was theirs immediately before infusing the body of the newborn. The soul personality of the deceased person ascends to the cosmic plane, where it will remain until its next incarnation. According to natural and universal laws, nothing is destroyed or created. So what many people think of as death is an illusion when you consider what the Rosicrucian monographs just described. So the way that we can better understand or live with that life, that what we experience might be an illusion, is understanding perception and reality. And a number of monographs cover this subject. Our senses provide a limited and often subjective experience of the world. For example, what we see, hear, or feel is filtered through our brain and shaped by our past experiences, beliefs, and cultural conditioning. In this sense, the reality we perceive is not the full reality, but a constructed model created by our minds. From a philosophical perspective, in Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of Maya refers to the idea that the physical world is an illusion, masking the deeper truth of unity and interconnectedness. The ultimate reality is the eternal, unchanging consciousness that underlies all phenomena. And similarly, in Western philosophy, thinkers like Plato, with his allegory of the cave, and Immanuel Kant explore the idea that what we perceive is not the thing in itself, but a representation shaped by our minds. And modern science, in quantum mechanics, the nature of particles and waves challenges the idea of objective reality, suggesting that observation affects what is observed. And neuroscience reveals that our brains construct reality based on limited inputs, meaning our experience is shaped as much by assumptions and predictions as by raw sensory data. So what we can do, and what the Rosicrucian monographs train us to do, is to see through the illusion. Recognizing that everything is an illusion doesn't mean that life is meaningless. Instead, it's a chance for us to go beyond surface appearances and understand the deeper truths about ourselves, others, and the universe. We can also live with awareness. This understanding can help to inspire mindfulness. By recognizing and observing our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions that are not absolute truth, we can approach life with curiosity, openness, and detachment from limiting beliefs. We can embrace unity and interconnection. If the world as we perceive it is an illusion, it suggests that there is a deeper interconnected reality. This can encourage compassion and humility as we see others and ourselves as part of the greater whole. And many Rosicrucians have shared their experience related to this, to seeing that we're all one, that we're all beings of energy swimming in an ocean of energy or consciousness. So we can practice mindfulness. And one thing that helped me, I've shared this before. One time I was concerned about something, and I shared this with one of my mentors, and she said, that may be true, but right now you're safe. So it didn't discount what I was worried about, but in that moment, it wasn't really affecting me. So that's a great way to practice mindfulness, that, okay, I'm worried about whatever that might happen in the future, but right now I'm okay. Right now I'm safe. We can question our assumptions. We can recognize that some of our, well, really, that all of our perspectives are limited and subjective. We can be open to other viewpoints and deeper truths. And you may have experienced this. Have you ever thought that something was bad, but then in the end, the results were either neutral or positive? We can also focus on the eternal. And this is very much a part of the Rosicrucian teachings. I began by mentioning that we can see some of the illusions in our life if we think what people typically think of as death, that's it, that's the end. But we can see that death is just part of the eternal process of life. And this is part of the Rosicrucian funeral service that any Rosicrucian is welcome to have performed after their transition. And that's what Rosicrucians call death. We see it as a transition from this state to whatever the next state is. And many people share that they find the Rosicrucian funeral ceremony very inspiring, to just be reminded that transition is a natural part of life and it's part of an eternal process. So understanding that everything is an illusion is not a call to just give up and reject life, but to see it more clearly, to see things more clearly. It's an opportunity to live with greater awareness, appreciation, and alignment with the deeper truths of existence. And it invites us to find meaning not in fleeting appearances, but in the eternal essence behind them. Here's our next question. Please clarify the difference between ether and the essence of the cosmic, or cosmic essence. In the context of the Rosicrucian tradition, the distinction between ether and cosmic essence is that ether is often described as a subtle, luminous substance or medium that permeates all space. This is ether. It is sometimes considered the bridge between the material and spiritual realm. Cosmic essence refers to the ultimate, undifferentiated source of all creation, the fundamental reality, although in our tradition we call it actuality, the fundamental reality or actuality or divine presence from which all phenomena arise. So again, ether is a subtle luminous substance or medium that permeates all space. It is sometimes considered the bridge between the material and spiritual realms. Cosmic essence refers to the ultimate, undifferentiated source of all creation, the fundamental reality or divine presence from which all phenomena arise. So, ether is a manifestation or aspect of the material cosmos with metaphysical properties, while cosmic essence represents the transcendent, unmanifest reality behind all existence. Ether might be seen as part of the differentiated universe, whereas cosmic essence is the undifferentiated unity at its core. Here's our next question. After sending a message through telepathy, we are told to forget about what we've done and proceed with other activities. This forgetting is also used after a request in our celestial sanctum, for example, with visualization. It is necessary in other activities we perform as well. The reasons why are explained, and I understand. The question is this: for how long are we to forget that we've done the thing before it's okay to remember? So if we're visualizing something, we visualize it intensely, we feel it, and we completely connect with the frequency of what it is we want to manifest. And then we're encouraged to let that go, to turn it into the hands of the cosmic to manifest it. And the idea with this is don't go back and fret about it or check to see if something is manifesting or try to do it better than the cosmic can do it. So the idea is to release it. We're releasing it to the most powerful energy that exists. So get out of its way and let it manifest. We move forward as though the thing has happened, or as though we have connected with that new state or condition, and you will know the right timing. So we release this to the cosmic to manifest, and we behave knowing that it is manifesting. So you plan your timing with that. Okay, here's our next question. Was the AMORC logo with long stretched out wings designed after the scarab beetle's flight with wings? And we're going to share a few images now. This is the image that, hold on here. This is the image that the person who sent this question is referring to. So this is a modern image created for the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. And you see the circle in the middle and the rose cross in the very center of the circle and the wings and AMORC above this. So this is an image that we use a lot in the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. And next we'll see in the Rosicrucian Manual from 1918, H. Spencer Lewis was already using a version of this image. And in the manual, it says Egyptian symbols. He has a number of Egyptian symbols there. And it appears that this image originated with H. Spencer Lewis, because he wrote the Rosicrucian Manual in 1918, and we're seeing this image there. And next we'll see, this is an image from the oversized book called Secret Symbols of the Rosicrucians of the 16th and 17th centuries. And people at that time were not as familiar with Egyptian, well, people in Europe, and that's where this originated, were not as familiar with Egyptian symbolism in the 15, 16, and 1700s. But you can already see that we have the circle in the center and the wings around it, and then the 4 elements. And next we'll see an image of this the winged disc, this is the entrance. This looks like an artist rendering, but it's actually a photo that I took. The Peace Garden at Rosicrucian Park, it's so beautiful. It is perfect like that. We created an actual winged disc for the entrance to the Rosicrucian Peace Garden. So this symbol began with the ancient Egyptians and then was transferred to a number of other cultures. And in the Rosicrucian, well, for ancient Egypt, that's the oldest reference I've seen to it. And then it was transported to Persia and a number of other cultures. And in ancient Egypt, the symbol represents the sun deity Ra. So the circle in the center is Ra, the very powerful deity, and signifies divine power and royalty. And with the wings, it's the sun's ability to reach across the sky. And with the AMORC symbol, this is a symbol of spirituality, protection, and divine power, drawing on our ancient Egyptian roots. Okay. Our next question. My 13-year-old dog that I love very much just had a malignant mass removed from under his tongue. He is still feeling good at this time. Also, to help him, I have been using the Rosicrucian healing on him. If in the future he is not doing well and nearing transition, the vet has talked about euthanasia. I do not believe it is right to take his life. I'm a retired RN and don't believe in euthanasia for humans either. I will do all I can to keep him from suffering. Many people believe it is cruel not to euthanize a suffering animal. I'm having a very difficult time dealing with this situation. I really need some help. So everybody decides this for themselves. We decide what we want. We decide what we would do for a beloved pet. I've been in this position myself. For pain relief and healing, you can use vowel sounds on animals as well as for people. So if someone, including a dog or a cat or any other animal, is experiencing pain or needs healing, we can intone the vowel sound K-E. It's spelled K-H-E-I, and it's pronounced K-E. And this vowel sound stimulates the adrenal center. The adrenal glands, particularly through the hormone cortisol, play a role in pain relief and healing by helping to manage inflammation and providing the body with an energy boost during stressful situations, which can include experiencing pain. And so key points about the adrenal glands and pain. First, it stimulates cortisol release. When experiencing pain or stress, the adrenal glands release cortisol, a hormone that has anti-inflammatory properties, which can help to reduce pain signals and promote tissue repair to a certain extent. Also, the adrenal medulla also produces adrenaline, epinephrine, and noradrenaline, noradrenaline, which are involved in the fight or flight response, potentially leading to a temporary delay in pain perception during acute stress situations. So Rosicrucians have known this for centuries, and the current science explains why this vowel sound helps with healing and with pain relief. Now, in the 8th Temple degree, there are Rosicrucian monographs that deal with preparing for transition and when people have gone through transition. And here's a little bit of what it says. Despite what we may think, the attention given to people on the threshold of transition is not new. In certain ancient civilizations, especially those of Egypt and Greece, the dying received special care and were not left to face this final stage of life by themselves. From a Rosicrucian viewpoint, there exists pre-mortem and post-mortem assistance. So before the person goes through transition and after they have done it. much as prenatal and postnatal influence can be exercised on babies before and after birth. Pre-mortem assistance takes place on two levels. First, everything must be done to alleviate the physical suffering that those going through transition often endure. So first, alleviate the person's suffering. Second, it is important that they be supported psychologically. And we're advised that when transition is about to happen, it is inadvisable to comfort the person by indicating that they will get better, unless for some reason you feel it's absolutely necessary. But our teachings tell us that it is better to help the individual to accept the obvious and to prepare inwardly to cross the threshold to the other world. And I have been with a number of Rosicrucians as they have gone through transition, as they are preparing. And I understand the advice not to tell someone they're going to get better. There may be situations where you feel that's best, but to really allow the person to have the full experience of going through transition, so that if they're afraid, they can express their fear, so that they can experience what Rosicrucians call the great initiation. I recently, a long-time Rosicrucian, I called him, I knew that he was ending the end of his life, and he said, it's so interesting just to watch my body become weaker. And he had a number of Rosicrucians who were with him as he was going through transition. And he said, I'm going to go to the other side now, and just closed his eyes and didn't regain consciousness, and went through transition very peacefully. So that's the goal with this, that that's the reasoning behind that advice. During the entire stage of pre-mortem assistance, it is important to act in accordance with the religious or philosophical convictions of the dying person, so that their last moments of life be as peaceful as possible. And it also says post-mortem assistance helps the soul personality of the deceased as it ascends to the cosmic plane, where it will remain until its next incarnation. To provide such aid, we use mystical techniques and act on the metaphysical plane. I've mentioned before that we have a team of Rosicrucians who we meditate when a Rosicrucian has gone through transition. So we help them on their journey. And if anyone would like to join this team, you can send an email to me just saying you want to be part of the transition meditation team. My email address is jscott, JSCOTT, @rosicrucian.org. And when I'm notified that a member has gone through transition, I send an email to everyone who's part of this team, and I explain the meditation that we're going to do. And we also do a meditation for new beings coming to Earth. So if a Rosicrucian is about to give birth, we perform a meditation for this new being who's coming to Earth. So again, if you would like to join that team, send an email to jscott@rosicrucian.org, and I will acknowledge your email so that you know I got it. And then after that, you'll just get an email that I send to everyone, informing everyone it's time to meditate for this Rosicrucian member who has passed on. We perform the meditation, or to let everyone on the meditation team know it's time to do our special meditation for new beings coming to Earth. All right, here is our last question for this teleconference. It's a big one. What is the purpose of life? So the Rosicrucian teachings address this. The Rosicrucians' teachings state that the goal of life, all life, our lives, all life, is to untiringly serve as a mirror in which the divine contemplates its own reflection. The goal of our life is that we serve as a mirror in which the divine experiences itself. So live life fully. Give the divine everything it put you here for. Be aware in the present moment. The purpose of life is to live life fully and to give the divine its money's worth on having us incarnate so that it can experience more of its creation. So to close, we're going to do something related to Thanksgiving Day, which is celebrated in the United States tomorrow on the fourth Thursday of November every year. And so I invite you to think of 10 people, things, or conditions that you are grateful for. So think of 10 things, people, or conditions that you are grateful for. And if you need help, okay, maybe you're grateful for the Rosicrucian Order. Maybe you're grateful to whoever invented Zoom, or to your health. You're grateful for your eyesight. You're grateful for your hearing. You may be grateful for whoever helped to establish your country. You may be grateful to the divine. You may be grateful for another day of conscious awareness. 10 things. Okay, now we're going to allow you to unmute yourself. So we'll make that change, but you have to unmute yourself so that we can hear you. And just say what it is. Say one thing and then let other people talk and say another thing. We're going to open the chat so you can put in the chat some of the things that you are grateful for. So again, if you want to speak, you unmute yourself. I'm going to read some of the things in our chat. So some of the things people are grateful for this day: AMORC, family. Bob, I know who wrote that. My family, a lot of family gratitude, life. Grateful for my Rosicrucian studies, the cosmic wisdom. Wow, this is going fast. Grateful for divine guidance. Oh, for Julie Scott, thank you. For my cat, thank you. My dog, good. Dog's got the equal billing there. Gratefully for being grateful. Health, please be grateful for your health. Another cat, AMORC, teachers that light my path. Abundance in food. Meeting the order, AMORC and TMO. We have so much to be grateful for. This is fantastic. Grateful for everything, to be able to think and love. So I take it for some reason it's not working to unmute our mics, but we're getting so much here in the chat. Great. Unmute. Okay. Grateful for my legs, my health. Doesn't it feel good to express gratitude? Grateful to H. Spencer Lewis, nature. There's been a lot of research on how gratitude helps to, is actually good for our heart, because we're re-experiencing something that was good. So it's sending messages from our heart to our brain and our brain back to our heart. So that's why feeling gratitude feels so good. So grateful for being a Rosicrucian. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And whether you live in the United States or not, happy Thanksgiving to you whenever you may celebrate it.